Hello everyone, I am Tessellating Hexagons, and yesterday was the long-awaited final of Melodifestivalen 2018, which is, of course, as everyone knows, the national final of my favourite country of them all, Sweden. Now, all joking aside, I have a bit of a complex relationship with Sweden, so if you're new to this channel, we're gonna learn some things today. Anyway, the winner of Melodifestivalen 2018 is one Benjamin Ingrosso, and the song Dance You Off, which is performed in English, music and lyrics by Benjamin Ingrosso, M-A-G, or Mag, I know that's all the information I could get on that person, plus Louis Scholl and K. Nita? I think it's Nita. And the only name that I recognise in there, apart from Benjamin Ingrosso himself, who was competing to represent Sweden last year as well with a giant foil turkey casing or whatever that was in Melfest, Louis Scholl, he wrote the debut Australian entry in 2015, so I recognise a name. Go me! But yeah, for the people who just joined this channel this year, I should confess something. I'm not under Sweden's magic Eurovision spell, and I never have been, so I'm going to treat this song like every other entry this year. None of that Sweden leads, we only follow crap. And my first impression of this song is that it's mostly bluster, to be honest. Well-produced bluster, mind you. Sweden doesn't do poor production, but still, it's nothing that blew me away. It's still an adequately enjoyable listen though, and much like Australia, I wouldn't skip past it when listening to this year's compilation album, but I wouldn't go out of my way to find it either. I wouldn't skip all the way to the end of the second CD just to put this on. Also, dumb personal thought, but to oversimplify, this song is about dancing to forget someone, right? So isn't that kind of a flawed premise? Because, like, you could be dancing for a good 45 minutes and then pause and think, why am I doing this again? Oh yeah, oh. And then you have to start all over again because you just remembered what you were trying to forget. That, ladies, gentlemen, and all friends besides, is me attempting to be funny. Let's just put that to one side and get on with what you might like about this song. And because it's Sweden doesn't count as a reason, fandom. One thing that Sweden tends to do that I always have zero patience for is take the live staging from Melodifestivalen and then just copy and paste it to the Eurovision stage without any changes, which has always struck me as a teensy bit arrogant, but that's a rant for another time. In this instance, we can use that to infer that the staging will consist of darkness and a platform made of strobe lights, so it looks like he's dancing in mid-air in the flashing light dimension. Seems like a bit of a middle finger to anyone with epilepsy, but to everyone else it certainly does leave an impression. In fact, for people with epilepsy it would leave an impression as well, but that's dark humour and I'm not going to go there. Similarly, as far as we can tell, because I have heard accusations in the past that Melodifestivalen acts tend to mime their songs, but I haven't ever seen proof of that, so as far as we can tell, he's a capable live performer, live, able to hit the right notes even whilst leading his own choreography, which is a really difficult thing to do, so sincerely, credit there, that isn't easy and he manages it. That choreography also ties into his general persona of having a lot of what the cool kids call swagger. He has swag, he's cool, he's charismatic, he's got confidence and energy, the sort of thing that really projects an aura of competence about himself. Like, you look at him and think, yeah, this guy knows what he's doing. And that will surely help to convince live viewers that he may be worth the investment. Not that Sweden, of all people, needed that extra boost in particular, but hey. And finally, you may not feel that strongly about this genre of song, but it does sound like something fresh out of the actual international charts at the moment. Not just Sweden, not just Scandinavia, but internationally, even in my country, and my country is famously crap at putting Eurovision songs in the charts, but this sounds like it could be in the charts here. I could imagine turning on the radio and hearing something like this easily, and I hold the belief that if songs sound like they're from the real world, that easily stands them in good stead compared to songs that are written just for Eurovision. But could we expect anything less from Sweden in a year like this, to be fair? However, as always, we can't look over the aspects of this song that you might not enjoy, because believe it or not, they do still exist. First and foremost, I'll just step right up and say it, this song really doesn't leave much of an impression on first listening. That is, listening, without the visuals. It's okay, sure, but I really didn't feel all that grabbed and shaken by this song. It's fine, it's not bad, but I've seen this song described as warm air, and that kind of summarises the experience that I've had with it myself. Some people will disagree, and that's fine as long as you're doing it for the right reasons and not just, oh, it's Sweden, they must be perfect. But I think a part of this as well is how overbearing the staging in Melodifestivalen was. It honestly looked like this one song had more budget poured into it than all the other 11 finalists combined. And it's one of those rare occasions where the song is so relatively simple and the staging is so blustery that the visuals overpower the song, and in no small way. Sure, I remember the whole strobe-light universe dance thing, but in comparison, I barely remember anything about the actual performance, and that's what counts here. All I remember is lights, just lights. No song, just lights. I don't want to call it desperate for attention, but I feel as though the staging was written with no particular song in mind, and then they just sort of adapted it around this song and sort of sent it off as a package. I may be completely wrong there. And as for the structure of the song, I can't call it static by any means, it does have dynamism, but even with its small sense of progression throughout the song, for all the energy that they put into the staging and the performance, the song really isn't dynamic enough to hold my attention. There is some dynamism there, but just not enough. This feels like background music for a coffee shop, but it's being presented live as if it's this floor-filling party club anthem, and it just so isn't. It's not void of interest, certainly, it is still a joy to listen to, but it does feel like it doesn't stray too far outside its comfort zone as a piece of music, making it feel rather safe in fluffy music critic kind of terms. Moving on though, let's take a look at the ratings out of 10. This bothers me a little, because I want to give this a personal score of 5, and I'm sure people are going to say, no Tess, you like it more than that, and if any other country sent this song, you'd give it a higher score. You're just being a hater because it's Sweden. And no, I can see how it might look that way, but no. I give this a personal score of 5 because this song just does not interest me. It doesn't hold my attention. It's an okay toe tapper, I acknowledge that. It can be used as chilled out background music, and there is a time and a place for it, and I acknowledge that. And as I said, I wouldn't skip past it on the compilation album. But I'm just not really feeling a connection with this song. If my precious San Marino sent this song, I would praise them for the effort, but I still wouldn't feel any more entertained than I am with Sweden sending it, which is why my personal score is what it is. But my technical rating for this song, which arguably matters a lot more because it's not just my raw opinion, is 8. This is another example of a song that does well in all the areas that it covers, but then doesn't really try to do much else. As a piece of chill-out radio music, it's a solid entry, composed competently and performed by someone who can perform live in every sense, written by people who know how to write for Eurovision, but without sounding like they're writing just for Eurovision, excluding the outside world. But I can't say I care for the mutton dressed as lamb kind of approach for the staging, dressing it up as if it's Eurovision's next top mind blow, because it really isn't, and no amount of visual bluster can change that. So, musically, it's okay, but only okay. So is this year a step in the right direction for Sweden? Well, once again, I feel as though people are going to assume the worst of me here. You're going to assume that I'm being harsh just because it's Sweden, but no, I don't want to destroy my own credibility just to make some petty point about some silly rivalry that doesn't exist. I feel like this is a modest step down by Sweden's standards, and I'm not talking about the song here because the song is fine, but this year's Melodifestivalen as a whole. Of the 12 finalists, my parents watched the show, I watched the show, and we all felt that none of them were particularly Eurovision worthy compared to what Sweden usually fields in their national selection. At my most critical, we all agreed that none of them particularly sounded at home on a stage of that size, and even failing that, according to one tweet, this year's Andra Johansson received the lowest viewing figures of a Melodifestivalen show in recent memory. Sure, it was still like a quarter of the population, and most countries would kill to have that many people watching their national selection, but for Sweden, it is a decrease. It's the lowest viewership that the show has had for years. And the way the Heart app vote thing dilutes the final public scores in the Melfest final, that was really apparent again this year. Maybe this year is just a random blip in terms of quality of the lineup and all these other aspects. But knowing Sweden, if it is just a blip, they'll bounce back next year and then some, so I wouldn't worry. Now, will it qualify? I mean, come on, this is Sweden we're talking about. If they bring the blusterful staging from Melodifestivalen, the average viewer will be mesmerised into loving the performance. Not the song, but the performance. If they like the song as well, then that's just gonna be the icing on the cake, isn't it? So they'll vote frantically to make sure that we get to see it again in the final. And I do mean see it again in the final. The juries will probably rate it fairly highly just based on the fallacy of, oh, it's Sweden, so if we don't think it's good, it's probably just beyond our comprehension at the moment. Or, if I were to be so much less cynical, the song is designed to entrance, and people who enjoy this sort of thing, which is a broad enough swathe of the viewing public because it sounds like it belongs in the charts, they will probably give it the support it needs. This is Eurovision though, and anything is possible, But then again, this is Eurovision. We haven't had a final without Sweden since 2010. You tell me what you think is going to happen, to be quite honest. Well, while you're having a little think about that, because that totally wasn't a rhetorical statement, I have been and will continue to be Tessellating Hexagons, and honestly, I don't spite Sweden. I do really wish Benjamin and his team the very best of luck. We'll see what you bring to the table in Lisbon. Hopefully something that better matches the song, but I won't hold my breath. Still, good luck for May.